Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and today I'm joined by Dr. Kim Brown. Kim is an osteopath and NLP trainer and coach, and has a huge interest in the mind, body, and soul connection. She lives her life based on the programs, beliefs, and habits that she teaches her clients, and she really believes in empowering yourself with your thoughts rather than letting your thoughts disempower you. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you so much, Magic.
Now, Kim, I'm going to tell the world now that you've done some work with me and it was absolutely fantastic. And certainly going into working with you as one of your clients, I had no idea what to expect. In fact, I was a little bit nervous and I think I actually cancelled on you a few times at the start. So can you please tell the listeners what it is that you do? Because I know with NLP and hypnosis and things like that, there is quite a stigma out there.
Absolutely. So the work I do is completely with the unconscious mind. We have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind, and most of us would be very aware of what the conscious mind does. It's like the battery pack, it's the willpower. So if you've ever attempted a New Year's resolution and failed it within 2 or 3 days, you're very much aware that the conscious mind runs out of steam. The unconscious mind is where we store everything, our habits, our beliefs, our behaviors, everything we do. It's the autopilot. And this is the bit that we get to tap into through NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. And this is what we get to change. Now, when I'm explaining what I do, it's actually quite a difficult concept to explain because, well, it's just like magic, right? The thing is, we get to literally rewire our programming. All our beliefs, our behaviors, our attitudes, our value systems are programmed either through our ancestors, through our coaches, through our teachers, through our siblings. And we get to be able to change that if it's no longer empowering us. So what we do is go back into the past, rewire beautifully and magically what we used to think about ourselves and change it for something far more empowering.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Now, NLP, we've all heard of it. Many people don't actually understand what NLP is in a nutshell. I know you've just touched on it, but for the lay people out there that might be listening and they've heard it a million times, certainly in the past 10 years, what exactly is it?
Neuro-linguistic programming, so language being our middle name. Neuro being the nervous system, so our brain, conscious mind, unconscious mind, and more importantly, our nervous system. Everything's so beautifully connected. So the way we use language will either change our life for the good or change it to disempower us. And what I mean by that is language has meaning. Language has meaning within the nervous system. So if I was to say to myself, oh my God, I'm a klutz, well, suddenly I'll find myself falling over everything in order to make that belief come true. If I was to say to myself, gee, I'm fat, I will do everything in my power to make sure that comes true, because ultimately the way we speak to ourselves internally through our unconscious mind is what we do in our actions. Now, NLP can be used for our advantage and for our success when we recognize those language patterns that are actually not serving us we get to be firstly aware of it and secondly make changes. So instead of believing I am fat, simply by changing the words, the language, I have fat, we have changed the meaning and therefore the neurological connection that we have given simply to that language. And that's what can be the difference between someone having success and not having success based on the way we talk to ourselves, because we get to be right. So whether we think we can or we think we can't, we're actually right. And whatever we focus on expands. So if we focus on negativity and if we focus on fear and we focus on language that is not empowering us, that's what we create in our nervous system. And our nervous system holds on to all of those patterns from our past for as way back as we've been alive and brings it into our current. So if you find yourself being scared of something that happened when you were 2 or 3 years old, that's because your nervous system is holding on to the memory of those fears. So it's through language that we get to actually be able to change the meaning of those events.
That's fantastic. I really agree with everything that you said there. I mean, listeners, how many times have you looked at some stairs that you're about to walk up and gone, I hope I don't trip over, and then all of a sudden you do? Like, what you put out there is going to happen. It's really going to be a reality if your mind wishes it to be. So for the people out there that don't want something to happen, don't put that language into your world. It's as simple as that. So, Kim, I ask all my guests the same 3 questions, and I'm always amazed by the different answers that I get. And I'm actually really excited for your answers here. The first question is, what can your expertise do to accelerate health? Now, when we're talking health, we talk not just the physical, but the spiritual and the emotional.
So ultimately, if we want to see changes on the outside, the physical changes, we need to make the changes from within. There's no amount of face creams or external help that is going to make a difference if the inside is not healthy. So we need to start from within. And sure, we can do that biochemically through the foods we eat and through what we take in, food and drink. The part that's often ignored is what's happening emotionally. So emotionally is where we get to shift so much of what's going in our body. And therefore, that's what impacts our health. So let me give you an example of that. If we were to experience fear or anger, even more, anger is a strong one. If we would experience just a few minutes of anger, it literally depresses our immune system for 6 hours. So you can imagine walking around without your immune shield on for 6 hours simply because you had 4 minutes of anger. It's not a great trade-off. So 4 minutes of anger, which may not have even been your own, it could have been someone else's that you took on, then depresses your immune system for 6 hours. Now, you imagine doing that repetitively, over and over and over again. Maybe you were brought up in a household where anger was the main emotion expressed. So time and time and time again, your immune system is depressed simply because of the emotions that you live in. Now, that doesn't make for a well person. And then you practice that over and over and over again, and therefore your body only learns how to have a depressed immune system. It's no surprise later on in life, you would have autoimmune conditions or chronic conditions or things that maybe doctors can't even explain because you have either grown up or repetitively had this block in your immune system. Well, through NLP and timeline therapy, we actually get to remove the emotional attachment that these emotions have, not only on your nervous system, but of course on your immune system, and then teach you the skills to not stay in those emotions should they be re-triggered, because we're human. So those emotions are going to come up again. That doesn't mean you need to stay in it. So you might have an emotional outburst that lasts 30 seconds or a minute, rather than the 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 hours that it might have happened in the past. And therefore, you can put your emotional block away and put back your immune system shield. Of course, that's going to make a massive difference to your physical well-being if your emotional shield is strong.
very true. Now, in our work together, and I don't mind sharing a bit of my life with the listeners, there was a person that kept triggering me, and I couldn't understand that when I was young, why I was always getting colds and flus. Like pretty much every week I would get something. And it was the anger from this person in my life that was triggering me. And it wasn't till I started working with you that I went back and healed the emotional charge I had to that memory so I could get on with my life. So listeners, I can tell you from experience that this all is so important for your health. And holding on to something that you might not even remember as a child, but it was there, is still affecting your immune system. Now, Kim, people hold energy in their bodies, whether it's energy as a trapped emotion or a limiting belief, or whether it's just some energy that hasn't been expended earlier on in the life of this person. What does that do to how they show up every day?
Absolutely. We have all sorts of energy, good energy, bad energy, easy flowing energy. You know how you're feeling when you're feeling great and you feel in flow and things are really working out for you. That's because inside your energy is flowing in a beautiful, easy, calm way. If you're feeling angry or erratic, then the energy literally is a block. Because the way we have stuck, stagnant emotional energy sits in our system and blocks the connections of so many things, not only our immune system, but the way our hormone system works, the way our nervous system works, the way our cardiovascular system works. It has to do with everything. And when things are not firing properly and working well together, we can get very stagnant. And we can get very stagnant in the sense of, you ever felt so ridiculously slumpy and lazy, but you don't want to feel that way? Well, that can be an internal thing that comes from our emotional charge. It can also come from our limiting beliefs. It can come from so many different places. The reality is it doesn't actually matter where it comes from. The point is it's showing up and it's in our present. And it's distracting us from what we want to do. It's holding us back from what we want to do. And it's blocking our energy systems to maybe even create procrastination or anxiety or any of these other labels that we can give it. Ultimately, the way we feel inside is how we're going to express ourselves outside. And if we're feeling stuck or trapped or blocked or nervous or any of those things, we're going to create that as an external behavior. So I speak to so many people that say, I'm anxious. Are you anxious or excited? You see, the nervous system doesn't even know the difference. The feeling is the same. It's just the label we give it that will actually determine whether we use that anxiety for good, as in, do we go do something with it because we've labeled it excitement? Or do we use it as an excuse to hold ourselves back from something we want to do because we've labeled it as fear-based? And this is where the energy comes into it. How are you using that feeling? How are you using that emotion? Are you using it as an energetic buffer to go forward and do something amazing and get creative and be energetic in the way of go do action? Or are you using it as an excuse or as a reason to stop everything and hold yourself back? Oh, I'll wait till I feel motivated. Or I'll wait till I feel this. Your feelings have a lot of drivers. If you feel something, you tend to act on it. So if you feel sad or feel lazy or feel anxious, I guarantee you won't act in a positive way. You'll hold yourself back. You'll find an excuse. You'll put procrastination higher on the list. But if you're feeling energetic because your nervous system is going, right, let's go do it, you'll create amazing things. But it's your feelings and your emotions that dictate which version of this energy that you tap into.
Totally. And just on procrastination, my theory is if you wait for tomorrow, by the time you get there, it's today. So tomorrow never comes. Like, why put something off when you can do it today, here and now, rather than the next today? Because you're just going to be chasing your tail.
Absolutely. Procrastination is the killer of dreams. Why do you think that you'll feel better tomorrow or more energized tomorrow or have the answers tomorrow if you haven't got them today? The thing is, procrastination is one of those systems in place to help you feel safe. So if I just stay here for a little bit longer, I'll get to feel safe. The thing is, feeling safe and getting amazing stuff done generally doesn't coexist. We have to step out of our perceived safety zone in order to achieve something. And sometimes we can get a little bit nervous about doing something new. If we simply label that nervousness as excitement, like I said, it's the same feeling. So what if you're excited to do something new? We have a part of our brain, the reticular activating system, the RAS. It looks for the same thing over and over again. So if you keep seeing the same behaviors and patterns in yourself, you're going to keep creating that and you're going to keep looking for them. And that's where procrastination gets stuck. If you were out ready to buy a new car and you'd suddenly seen this red Range Rover that you were interested in buying, I guarantee you the next day you're going to see 10 of them. You hadn't seen them before, but suddenly they're in your view. You're paying attention. Well, the exact same thing happens when you put off something. Your brain says, oh, I'm safe if I just stay right where I am. So your RAS goes, tick, I kept myself safe. Well done. So the next time you ever had a thought or a belief to go, oh, I could go write that paper I've been meaning to write for the last 5 years. And the RAS kicks in and goes, but we felt so safe staying right here. Let's do that again. And that's exactly what happens. The little switch in your brain goes, oh no, better stay safe. We'll do that tomorrow when I feel like doing it. The thing is, if we wait for feeling like doing it, we'll never do. So therefore, we keep staying on this revolving hamster wheel because our brain wants to keep us safe. We're all about survival. And because we've relived that same feeling of safety again, the RAS gets its excitement to go, yes, we stayed safe again, go us. But we never do anything. We go round and round in circles in this whole loop going, I stayed safe, go me, I'll do it tomorrow. I stayed safe, go me, I'll do it tomorrow. And off we go on that hamster wheel and we never actually evolve. We stay safe, but we go nowhere. We get nothing done. And then we might end up in the guilt cycle because we didn't do what we said we were going to do. So then we not only stayed safe, but we feel guilty about it. And off we go again on the perpetual loop.
That's so true. And if we stay on that cycle, we start to regret it and we start to resent ourselves. And then how good do you feel by putting something off? You actually feel really yucky about yourself. You've got all these open loops in your head because you know there's something you have to do, but it's eating away at you and becomes personal resentment. Now, we talk about wealth here as well, Kim. So we're talking personal, financial, and emotional wealth. People think wealth is just money. So what are your top 3 tips to creating total wealth?
Wealth is the most exciting topic to talk about because without wealth, there is no health. Without health, there is no wealth. They come so closely together. Financial wealth makes a massive difference in how we feel about ourselves. And I'm not talking about having the most amazing handbag or the shiniest car. I'm talking about the fact that it comes back to that safety loop. If we don't have financial freedom, financial security, we are perpetually in that loop of fear. We end up holding ourselves back from everything, and we live in this state of stress. Our reticular activating system doesn't know what happiness is when it's constantly seeking out fear. So when it comes to financial stress, this is one of the most major causes of ill health in our body. When we are fearful that we can't pay the next bill, we build up stress so much in our body that we literally create disease from it. We create ulcers. We keep ourselves awake all night and therefore create insomnia. We create so many different health issues because of our financial situation. So when it comes to overall financial health, that is all the things: emotionally, Because if we keep living in fear, we're never going to create a great life anyway. Financially, because if we haven't got our finances sorted, we're going to be forever on that loop of ill health. And absolutely all areas of our life need to be holistically wealthy. So one of the greatest tips I've got when it comes to the first step to changing how you feel about yourself comes down to the identity factor. How many times have you said to someone, I can't afford that? The second you say that, you have just created a loop in your brain. I can't afford that. Okay. You get to play that out as true because you've just created it in your brain as an identity. I am broke. How many times have you said that out loud? Oh my God, I can't afford that, I'm broke. The thing is, by saying it out loud and by saying it even within your own head, you have created an identity around this. The same applies to I am fat. What if you said to yourself, I have fat? I have fat implies that you are separate from the health condition that you currently have. I have fat means fat is removable. You can lose it. You can drop it, you can release it. Again, whatever language you find empowering, because some people won't lose weight because their competitive nature means that they've labeled losing as a negative. So I don't want to lose weight because I've lost something rather than releasing it. So it comes down to the language and the identity you give it. So simple things for the listeners is change the identity. Notice and be aware of your language around how you identify with yourself. If you identify yourself, I am fat, change it. If you identify yourself with I am broke or I can't afford it, change it. Because even something simple like I can't afford it yet opens up the possibility loops in the unconscious mind. I can't afford it sounds definitive. It sounds done and dusted. I can't afford it yet. The part of your brain goes, ooh, yes, but there's possibility. And this is how we get to change the patterns. This is how we get to change from where we are now to where we want to be or prefer to be, because we get to be in control of our thought processes and therefore how that links to our emotional stuff. So when we are in control of our thought processes, including the emotional stuff, including the financial stuff, please make sure you have the financial stuff sorted. That's when you get to make an absolute shift to your reality. The other thing is, or another tip is just that awareness. So the next time you hear something come out of your mouth that's disempowering, like, I can't afford it, catch yourself and straight away go, ooh, I see you. I can't afford it yet. Or I am working on the finances to be able to afford that. Or whatever it is that's empowering for you. Got to be aware. If you're not aware, and that's why it's step one is to be aware of it. If you're not aware, then you'll never change anything. If you're not aware of any health issue, you won't change it. So step one is awareness. Then step two is change the identity or the labeling around it. So instead of I am fat, I have fat. Now, the same thing applies to any other condition that you may have. And I teach this to a lot of my students and patients. I have diabetes is far more empowering than I am diabetic. The condition itself may not be changeable, but the way you see it and the way you feel it and the way you identify with it can be changed. And therefore, you have the opportunity to release the negative emotions or the limiting beliefs that are created by that condition. And the other thing I would highly recommend is to create the new empowering belief and practice it. So some people call them incantations, some people call them mantras. It doesn't matter what it is you call it, affirmations, your language is fine. This is where we get to repeatedly practice new empowering beliefs, which ultimately will neurologically wire the new beliefs and help you let go of the old beliefs. So that way you can ultimately choose what it is you want to believe about yourself. So if you want to believe I am wealthy, you get to make that happen emotionally and neurologically. And what does wealth really mean to you? Is wealth cash in the bank? Or is wealth more holistic? Is it emotional wealth, physical wealth, financial wealth, the whole lot? Is it all of the above?
That's so spot on. Like, I can't even add to that, Kim. You really nailed that for us. Thank you. Now, we do talk about weight loss here, and I prefer it as weight release because I am that competitive person who has lost weight and it's come back. And because I'm an overachiever, it's come back with extra. So let's talk weight release today. And have you ever battled your weight? What was the trigger for you to make a change? Or what can you offer the listeners about weight release, in particular about stress reduction? Because we know that with excess weight, it's usually a stress-induced scenario.
Absolutely. I can tell you that I have battled with my weight for 20 odd years. So it's not like I haven't had the easy path when it comes to just being, the right weight, constantly healthy, etc. I've had to work for it. And it wasn't until I learned NLP that I realized why I had to work hard for it. It's because I'd labeled it. I'd battled with my weight. Just the word alone sounds like an effort. And I know that it stems from my childhood where my mum is a large lady and I had always looked at her and gone, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the fat mum. I don't want to be the large lady. I don't want to be, again, whatever label I'd put to that. Now, my mum's an incredible woman. She just didn't have the physique that I aspired to be. Well, guess what? I created it. I created it because I spent so much of my time and energy not wanting to be something. So when you have so much energy put in the negative against what you want, you actually create it. And this is because the unconscious mind doesn't process negations. And what I mean by that is if I said to you, don't think of a blue tree, you've just thought of the blue tree, had a little giggle about it, and then tried to unthink of the blue tree because I asked you not to. Well, when I spent most of my life not wanting to be a fat mum, it's what I created because my unconscious mind only heard everything that came after the don't or the not. So my brain went, oh, you want to be a fat mum? Okay, your wish is my command. And I created everything I didn't want. The same applies to wealth. I don't want to be broke. Your brain only hears want to be broke and creates it. So no matter how hard you work, no matter how many jobs you have, you'll still end up in that perpetual cycle of being broke or of being fat or of being overweight or whatever language you use. Now, when I learned NLP and appreciated that the language I use are the labels we create and therefore the experience we have, it's no surprise I was able to shift those mental blocks. I now choose to be a fit and healthy mum. I now choose to be a fit and healthy Kim because I was linking so much of my worth to this mum status as opposed to who I am as an individual. So when it comes to weight loss, are those words empowering for you? Or are you, like Magic says, competitive and therefore loss doesn't work? So therefore you want to find it and you want to find it quickly and you want to find it like an overachiever and find even more. Well, guess what? I did the same thing because I never wanted to lose anything. Loss meant negative. So now it's about gaining slimness and gaining health and gaining my ideal size and weight. I never want to go back to my healthy weight because going back again means negative for me. It's going backwards. Who wants to go backwards? How about being slim going forward? So you've got to choose the empowering language that actually works for you. What feels right? What looks right? What sounds right in your language? And what's going to motivate you and drive you to become your best version, to become your most empowered self? I guarantee it's not to lose weight. Yeah. No one's empowered to lose weight. But they are empowered to become your fittest, strongest, most vital, vibrant, healthiest self that is full of amazing energy and looks and feels great. That's empowering. It's also something achievable because you get to create it in your mind first. How do you create loss in your mind? Well, we spend so much time running away from the negative that we create it. But then we don't know how we got there. So we keep doing it. And this is why it comes on stronger. Because we're so busy running away from the negative instead of striving towards the empowering. So do it with your health and do it with your wealth. That's holistic health.
Fantastic. Very well said. Kim, many people out there, especially with everything going on in the world at the moment, which we're not discussing, but we need to acknowledge it's happening, are feeling like almost like they're chasing their tails. There's information bombarding them from every which way, for and against what's happening, and they're feeling very overwhelmed. And something I've noticed with my clients is that constant acute stress is really piling up on them. So what's just a couple of really quick tips that people can do to shortcut that circuitry?
Absolutely. The adrenals, which sit on top of your kidneys, release adrenaline. They also release cortisol, and cortisol is the hormone that will create nice little fat deposits around your belly. So if you don't want to live in a state of stress, constantly having cortisol released into your system, you need to get out of that fight and flight system. You need to get out of that perpetual state of stress. How, you might be saying? Well, the thing is, you get to choose what audience your ears are listening. You get to choose what you read. You get to choose who you listen to and how much of it you listen to. So if the news has you in a perpetual state of, oh my God, what's happening? It's all doomsday, turn off the news. Simple. We don't need to be that aware to within an inch of what's going on in order to stay safe. See what you need to see and move on. You don't need to listen to a 2-hour broadcast of the same topic, because all that's going to do is have you sitting on the edge of your seat staring at a very red screen, and red is the color of fear and anger, and you're going to have your own system heightened. So step away from it. Choose something grounding, choose something uplifting, choose something empowering. Go read the book you've always wanted to read. Immerse yourself, all of your senses, in something that inspires you, not makes you scared. Now, that doesn't mean you don't need to be informed. Of course, you can be informed, but there's a massive difference between being informed and influenced. There's also a massive difference between having the awareness to keep you safe versus literally immersing yourself into every detail that it causes panic. So get yourself out of overwhelm and choose how you participate in conversations, in what you listen to, and into what you read.
Thanks so much for sharing all of that with us today, Kim. It's been quite empowering, so thank you. And I hope the listeners got as much from it as I did, and I've already worked with you, so I'm still learning. Thank you. Now, people can find you on Facebook at Dr. Kim Brown Fan, correct? And on Instagram at Dr. Kim Brown. What can you offer them if they track you down today? We love freebies here.
Absolutely. If you simply just message me through either of those avenues, I will send you the link to, it's a beautiful little piece I put together, just a 7-part series on what is NLP and how can it help you. They're just videos to listen to, short snippets of something you could listen to once a week, once a month, whatever it is for you, that you could literally help rewire and empower yourself towards better health and better wealth.
Thank you so much. Folks, that was Dr. Kim Brown joining us. And in episode 70, we have the lovely Linda Anagava coming to talk about the 360 degrees of health. Thank you today for your time, Kim. It was great to speak to you again. Listeners, go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.